everyone, today I'm here to talk to you about Karakari. This is a tile laying game from Devir, who did send it to me to review. This game is a interesting, puzzly sort of experience, as every time you're placing a tile it can trigger multiple possible actions for you, and some of them can be very beneficial points wise if you can pull them off. So how roughly does the game play? Well, you are on your turn going to be taking one of the tiles from the available market and you are placing it on this sort of central island that starts as just three sort of very small tiles, and by the end of the game has grown into this sort of big sort of flowing island that's maybe got water bits, mountain areas and things like canoes on top of them. So the way you're doing this is there's like an action table, and it depends what tile you're placing and what you're placing it next to the action that you can actually perform. Now you can perform any sort of a combination of the actions that you're allowed to via your placement. So in one turn you might sort of just be placing adjacent to one other tile, and then it's very easy. You look down the side of the table. This is the type of tile I'm placing, and I'm placing it next to this one. That is the single action that you are allowed to take then after that placement. But later on in the game you could actually be placing next to multiple tiles, and that's where you can have sort of a bigger, more impressive feeling turn. That could be grabbing a load of sweet potatoes. It could be trading them in for a canoe on a water space. It could be maybe taking another player's canoe off and putting yours down. It could be turning a canoe, discarding that canoe out of the game and putting a hut down on one of the mountain spaces. It's all in the aim of points, and there's a sort of a nice progression in this game that there's multiple scoring eras sort of as this map is growing out. As sort of the round comes to an end, you do some scoring and then you carry on. And it means that you can start to see who's doing well, and you can start to be like, okay, I kind of do want to make sure you don't have that canoe still there for scoring, so maybe I do want to take this tile and put it there. Now, there is that bit of luck coming out of the deck. It is kind of a little bit based on what tiles are coming out, but you're going to have to just sort of make do and sort of make the best possible result for yourself as these tiles are coming out. And you can line yourself up for sort of end game scoring of if you've got so many huts out or these totem things out, and little things like that that really make it quite an interesting game to play. Now, your first game of this, I would say, isn't going to be the easiest. I wouldn't say the rulebook is at fault here. I think it explains all of the actions really clearly. But there is something that's a little hard just to get your head around of when you place this tile down. What actions do I get? I'm placing this water tile next to this water tile, so that means I get this action. And there are helpful little sort of reference cards that each player has with that table on. That is an absolute lifesaver. If you didn't have that in this game, some games have a reference card and you don't even look at them. In this, if you didn't have that, that first game would be very slow. Keep going back to the rulebook. It is still a bit slower though, because you're constantly referring to that table. After a few games, however, you know what those actions are. You don't need to look them up as much. Maybe you don't even need to look them up at all, and it's just a case of, okay, I want that tile because that's going to let me put my canoe down. Then I can do hopefully this on the next turn if that's still in the market as it gets around the table. Because of that, I think at two players there's this real chess-like approach of, okay, there's only one mountain tile available, so I'm going to probably want to take that from the market and give me the option to be putting that down on the turn. Some people I think are going to really vibe with that, because there is that sort of chess-like approach of denying your opponent something that might be good to them, and sort of swooping in at the right time to take some sweet potatoes from like their towers that they construct, which spawn the sweet potatoes. That's a nicety. If you can do that at the right time, in a two-player game, it feels really impactful. As the player count goes up, you're like, okay, I'm not going to be getting all of my sweet potatoes. By the time it gets round to me, some of them will be taken. But then there are more, where with more players you put more down. Some people won't like it as much at 2 because it feels a lot more that you need to stop your opponent getting good points, whereas when there's more players, it's sort of a little bit more of a free-for-all in terms of what tiles might come out, and it just means that you kind of don't pay as much attention to your opponents, and you try and sort of big up your own score. And I kind of like that a little bit more, because it's cool growing this sort of map out, and where you're putting the tiles, triggering maybe 2 or 3 different actions. That feels cool when you get a big turn. It feels like you've made massive progress. And maybe your opponents, you know, they've only done that one action, but maybe that one action got them a lot of points. So it's a good experience. I think different people will like it at different player counts though. Anyway, that is Karekare. Check it out if you want a tile placement game that's got a little bit of meat on its bones in terms of it's not just place a tile and move on. You need to think where you're placing, not only what you're placing. Anyway, check out other news and reviews and such on the channel, and until next time, have a great day gaming.